I think I should begin by making a qualification. I'm not an expert on climate change, on forestry, or on water. So it's not clear to me why Owen thinks I can make a contribution, but I have in the last years spent a fair bit of time working with communities impacted by development, principally mining, but I expect that what we've experienced in relation to mining has equal application to other kinds of developments, including forestry, urbanization, and general industrial development. The focus of my address is really on development. I suppose the question I'm asking is, what is the purpose of development? Why do we undertake development? Development, I fear, has become a word a bit like transformation. It means something good. Quite what it means and how it means that is not clear to anybody. But transformation is good. Development is good. Well, we need to stop, have a look at some of those terms. And in particular, I'm interested in this term of development. The Deputy Minister of Cooperative Government and Traditional Affairs, Yunus Karim, suggested this week that the recent widespread delivery protests across the country may have less to do with a lack of service delivery than with declining environmental standards in the townships. In an editorial, the Mail and Guardian this week praised his sharp diagnostic eye and said that he may well have been onto something. I respectfully agree with the Deputy Minister. There can be little doubt, I think, that the degradation of people's living conditions undermines what little few gains we have made during the last 15 years of democracy, and that they contribute to create a climate for social unrest. I anticipate, certainly in the mining areas, that over the next few years we are going to see a massive growth in unrest, protest, and generally social chaos as a direct consequence of the so-called development that's taking place in these areas. Anyone who's familiar with Rustenburg or Burgersfort areas will have noted the enormous changes that those towns and the surrounding areas have undergone in the last 10 to 15 years. These changes have been brought about by the massive industrial development led by the platinum and chrome mining industries. Doubtless, this kind of development has had many positive impacts. Platinum is South Africa's most valuable mineral export. The industry has attracted significant foreign investment, and while employment numbers in the gold mining industries have declined, there's been a significant increase in formal employment in chrome and platinum sectors. There's also been a growth in secondary industries serving the mines, and tax revenues from these industries are significant. But there is another side to the coin. This is the upside of the development we see in these areas. There's another side. I think in 2008, the Benchmarks Foundation conducted some surveys in the Rustenburg area to assess what is the impact of platinum mining on those communities. Amongst other things, they found the highest HIV/AIDS infection levels at about 60% for the whole of the Northwest Province, 80% of the patients seen by medical practitioners in that area suffer from respiratory ailments associated with mining. 250,000 people living in informal settlements around the Rustenburg area, attracted by the mines, have no access to sewage, refuse removal, electricity, or piped water. That underground water resources are threatened by the pumping out of water from aquifers. That carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide emissions associated with platinum smelters give rise to acid rain and dust emissions from the mines, severe enough to impact on farming in the area. Farming is in decline. A lack of economic and employment opportunities for women and disabled people. A lack of safety and security as a result of crime, poverty, and poor services. I could add to that from my experiences in the Limpopo province, in Burgersfort and Mokopane areas, that they might have found a consistent decline in food security and a growth in hunger and malnutrition as a direct result of the decline of subsistence farming, which is collapsing as a result of the loss of land to mining, and dumps, and the sterilization of agricultural land as a result of social changes, and in particular cattle theft and crop theft, that has resulted in an almost complete collapse of subsistence farmer and associated problems of hunger and malnutrition. The loss of thousands of jobs of people, mainly women, who depended on subsistence agriculture. One example at Mokopane, approximately 15,000 families were relocated to make way for open cast platinum mining. 15,000 people, that's it's a large number of families. At least half of those people were dependent on subsistence agriculture, mainly women. From every household, 1 or 2 women were spending most of their productive lives and contributing to their families and their societies through subsistence agriculture. Those jobs have been lost. So we're talking about thousands of jobs lost, jobs that aren't valued because they didn't generate cash, they just contributed to food security, and replaced by a maximum of 500 formal jobs in the mining sector, of which the majority of which are taken by outsiders. So rather than seeing an increase in employment levels, we actually see a massive increase in unemployment levels and a growth in poverty. There's also been a significant decline in the status of women, flowing from their increased dependency on men who are employed in the formal wage-earning sector. The status of women declines, and with the decline in the status of these women, there are a range of social evils that impact. The total destruction of groundwater resources and the drying up of community wells and boreholes as a result of dewatering by the mines. The municipalities now are trucking water in very inefficiently. People are standing by the roads begging the municipality please to fill their buckets. Widespread damage to houses and schools and churches caused by blasting activities and ground subsidence associated with the mining. Near the Burgersfort area, we see the damming and the diversion of the Olifants River and its major tributary, the Steelpoort River, for the purpose of mining. I picked up something in one of the introductory speakers. That process, the damming and the diverting of these rivers, is heavily, heavily subsidized by the taxpayers. Taxpayer pays 50% of the cost of the pipelines and the dam building, but 95% of that water goes directly to the mining industry, and only a tiny fraction is going to farmers and local communities. They might also have noted, if they'd looked in that area, on the impact that the mining has had on the river itself, how that has affected tens of thousands of people living in Mozambique, who find their water resource dried up, and not to say its impact on the ecology of the Kruger National Park and the wildlife that depends on the water from the Olifants River. But this pattern of destruction associated with mining development is not a new one. I found in the groundwork report a fascinating quotation from Leonardo da Vinci, writing 600 years ago about mining. And this is what da Vinci wrote back then. "That shall be brought forth from the dark and obscure caves, which will put the whole human race in great anxiety, peril, and death. To many that seek them, after many sorrows they will give delight, and to those who are not in their company, those who are not part of the mining bosses, death with want and misfortune. This will lead to the commission of endless crimes. This will persuade bad men to assassinations, robberies, and enslavement. And by reason of it, each will be suspicious of his partner. This will deprive cities of their happy condition. This will take away the lives of many. This will make men torment one another. For this, the vast forests will die, will be devastated of their trees. For this, endless animals will lose their lives." That's Da Vinci 600 years ago, talking about the impact of mining.